Israel, the center of the world. So here we are. We decided to do the Justify Power Hour at the beginning of the week. For Israel, we're at the beginning of the week. Sunday is the beginning here, and for you, you're kind of at the end, but getting ready for another week. And as everyone knows, we've all been in a situation that's probably a bit different, a bit challenging, and we've been asked to maybe look a little bit deeper into ourselves to deal with this. So, when we're not challenged, then it's easy to be Mr. Happy and cool and funny and everything's great. But when we face challenges, that says most about us. How do you tell the most about a person is when they're dealing with challenges. So, for anyone new here, I lived in Asia for 6 years. I was practicing martial arts and Buddhism, and I did lots of 10-day silent meditation retreats, which I haven't stopped talking since then, by the way, because once you don't talk for 10 days so many times, you just can't stop talking, I guess. But I used to sit around a pond with my teacher, my master, a monk, and we used to try and just find being settled, just finding settling our minds, especially when we're on our own. Kind of, if you're either in, some people are in isolation, so they don't have so many people to talk to, but some people are stuck at home with lots of people. I've got 3 children and a wife, which is wonderful and can also be challenging. And some people are stuck at home with people they don't want to be with, really. So we're all facing our challenges, but Judaism really teaches that it's all about our perspective. And this is really what Justify teaches. Justify is teaching this idea that we can't always control the world around us. I can't control the traffic, and I can't control my boss, and we definitely can't control this corona thing. We can't control this. But what we can learn to start to do in our lives is learn to control how we react to that. Are we going to be a victim and things are happening to us all the time? Or are we going to start saying, okay, this is happening, change it if I can, but if not, learn really how to accept it. There's a famous prayer. It's called the Serenity Prayer. I don't know if any of you know the Serenity Prayer, but it goes something like this. Oh, I've forgotten it. Here, give me the courage to change what I can change, and give me the acceptance to accept, give me the serenity to accept what I can't change, and give me the wisdom to know the difference. So there's some things that I can change and some things that I can't change. So the things I can change, I should be brave enough to do everything I can to change them. And the things I can't change, rather than fighting against that and complaining but by the way, this means you can definitely share your emotions. But rather than being a victim, you have to ask yourself, okay, what am I going to learn from this? How am I going to grow from this? Where am I going to move from this? Because all growth in life comes from challenge. So when you go to the gym, you don't pick up 1 kilogram weights. You pick up something a bit heavy. So sometimes we get situations in our life that can maybe be a bit heavy. And in that situation, we can strengthen ourselves. So it all depends on your perspective, on your mind. Some people say that you believe based on what you see. So you see things in the world, and that makes you believe things. Someone says something to you. Maybe when you were young, someone said, you're not good enough. And then you saw that, and you saw things in your life, and you created that belief system. Judaism says, really, it's the other way around. You see based on what you believe. So if you believe you're not good enough, then you are going to get into relationships that you don't get treated how you deserve to be treated. But if you see yourself as worthy and worthy of love, then you're going to get into relationships that, you get respected and you get treated how you deserve to be treated. So it's really going to be your perspective. So your whole perspective is your mind. Your mind creates your perspective. So this is what we're doing. We're starting the week we're going to do a little meditation. And for some people that might sound a bit weird or hippie or scary. It's like, I don't do that sort of thing. But really, we're not going to sit with our legs crossed and put on some incense and say Om. But meditation just basically means finding some peace. By the way, you can do that as well if you want to sit with your legs crossed and do that. But meditation really just means getting some peace of mind. And really, our minds are just always constantly going and thinking and judging and doubting and fearing and worrying and anxiety and regret and guilt, all of those things. So what we want to do with this meditation is just to calm our mind down, just to calm the heavy flow of thoughts. And there are two ways to do this. One of them is called histaklut in Hebrew, which means watching. Watching. Like we watch a movie, you can start watching what's going on in your mind and not get so caught up in it, not get defined by it and not get pulled down by it. Just watch it and almost kind of as you're kind of amused by it. You're like, wow, what is that? That's an interest. So you get to learn about yourself a lot. So you're just watching your thoughts come. And the other one is to focus on something. So we tend to focus on our breath. And why is that? Because your breath is really your source of life. If you stop breathing, you're not around anymore. So every breath you take, ding, 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 ding. Go on, Paul, take it away, man. Every move you make, every single day, every time I break, I'll be missing. Yo, it's kind of hard with you not. Okay, so we run out of time for that. We've only got about 3 minutes for our meditation now, but can everyone just sit up straight? Because you don't have to have some weird posture, legs behind your head, but having a straight back really helps in general, by the way. It helps there's something called physiology, which is how you hold yourself, how you are sitting and how you are breathing really affects how you feel. So when you sit up straight, there's something called the power pose. Before you go into a meeting, a big business meeting, you stand like this for like 3 minutes, and that's the power pose, and that affects your whole being. So we're gonna have a little power pose, which I'm gonna sit up straight, which makes me feel like a human being, feel self-confident. And if you feel comfortable with this, gently close your eyes. And the reason I'm asking you to close your eyes is so that you don't have too much input. There's so many things. If you feel uncomfortable closing your eyes with your camera on, then feel free to turn your camera off. So we're just going to close your eyes. And once you've done that, I want you to breathe in very steadily and very deeply through your nose if you can. If it's a bit blocked, then you can breathe in through your mouth. So breathe very steadily. And then when you fill up your lungs and you've reached the capacity of your lungs, have a very gentle smile, and then very gently just breathe out slowly and steadily through your nose or through your mouth. And we're going to take 5 deep breaths. And I want you to count in your head very slowly up to 5. Smile, breathing in, and then breathing out, counting to 5. So we're just going to take 5 breaths, counting to 5 in and counting to 5 out. And when you count out and when you're breathing out, try and feel your body relaxing and you're letting go of any stress, any tension. Breathing in. Breathing out. And whatever thoughts are coming into your mind, don't get attached to them. Don't judge them. Don't escape them. Just let them be. Let them go. Just watch them and let them go. Let's take 2 more breaths. Deep breaths in, counting 5, and then out, counting 5. Okay, so maybe just take 1 or 2 more breaths. And if you want to turn your camera back on, that'd be nice. Like to see your faces. Okay, so really, this is a very basic introduction to meditation and what we're trying to achieve. And hopefully it's a very practical tool as well. You can do this for 1 minute every day. And maybe it will be difficult at first because your mind will be going all over the place. Maybe it's like going to the gym. The first time you go to the gym, you maybe don't want to, but after a while, you get so used to it, you feel you're lacking something if you don't go. So your homework, if you choose to accept it this week, is if you could set aside 1 or 2 minutes a day and breathe in and smile and breathe out and smile and just let your focus be on your breath and your life force coming in, and let the thoughts, whatever thoughts they are, just watch them and smile and let them go. Have a very beautiful and sweet and happy and wonderful week. I pass you on to the next holy presenter.
Dov Bear, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi Karen.
I'd like to welcome Rivka Pasha.
Hi there. So relaxed, so relaxed from Dov Bear. So last week we talked a little bit about what the heck this energy is that's going on with these next few weeks. So I want to talk about what to do with that energy this week. And there's a specific energy this week, and in case y'all didn't feel it, it happens this year. Every year it's a different day, but this year, starting on Thursday.
You're on mute.
That's great.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
We're good?
We can hear you now. Good.
Okay, good. I got a second chance to start. It's always good to have second chances. Hi. So last week we talked a little bit about what is going on with these next few weeks. This week, let's talk a little bit about what to do with what's going on. There is a very special energy happening this week, and the energy shifts. Every year the energy shifts at a certain day. This year the energy shifts every Thursday night, Friday morning. Every Thursday night, Friday day, you know, the Jewish day starts at night, right? Because first it's like darkness and then you go into lightness. All good things always start sometimes with a down, and then we get into the light. So every Thursday this week up until Thursday night, there's a special energy, and that special energy is called, in Hebrew, it's called Netzach. It's called the energy of Netzach. And what is Netzach? In a very small nutshell, Netzach is the energy of overcoming, the energy of victory, the energy of empowerment. It's also the energy of perseverance, of overcoming your own obstacles. And every one of these weeks has a different energy, and every one of these energies is associated with a different character from our past. And this week's energy is associated with Moses. And I want to tell you just for 1 second something really cool about Moses. There's a lot of really cool things about him. I'm sure you've heard a lot about him. He was a pretty famous guy, but there's something really special that I want to try to tap into with you this week. So of all of the stories that we've heard about Moses, there's this one that's fairly famous, and there's something about this burning bush, right? So there's this guy Moses, and he's like in the desert, and he's with his sheep, and one of his sheep sort of goes off, is wayward, and he goes after it, and then all of a sudden he sees that there's this bush. He sees to the side there's this bush, and it's burning, but the bush is not being consumed by the fire. So that in and of itself is kind of a crazy thing. So he sees this bush and it's burning, but it's not burning, it's not being consumed by the fire, and he goes over to it. And then there's this sort of crazy story of like him talking to God, and what's that all about? We're not going to get into it, but there's this very interesting part that happens during this whole conversation, is that God, or this, however you want to call it, the great unifying energy that is within and without each of us, the infinitude that you feel, that you can tap into when you deeply breathe, that when you're connected to yourself, that light, that inner light. And he's sort of conversing with this energy, and it's telling him that he's going to lead the Jewish people out of Egypt and out of slavery. And he says, no way. Now, I don't know if you knew this about Moses, but he actually had a lisp. He had a lisp. And he's like, I have a lisp, I can't even, you want me to go to Pharaoh? You want me to go to the most powerful person in the whole world? Like, Egypt was on the top of all of the countries. And you want me to go to the leader of the top of all the countries? And you want me to tell him to let my people go? There's no way. I have a lisp, I'm not a great public speaker. And what he hears back is amazing. he hears back, it's actually because you have the lisp. It's actually because of this perceived weakness that you have that I actually want you to lead the people. Why? Now, there's something really beautiful. You guys can, I'm gonna have to look. I never, like, I'm sure I'm not gonna pronounce this right. So I apologize to anybody who knows these things that I'm not pronouncing it right, but there's this really cool Japanese kind of pottery, and it's called kintsugi. Kintsugi, I think it's called. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. And it's this type of pottery art that when the pottery breaks, they piece it back together using gold. Well, it's technicalities, but they use like a gold dust and they put it into this really special, this special material that can bind back ceramics, which is actually a really hard thing to do. And it can bind back pottery. And it's amazing because now the final product is actually, in my opinion, even more beautiful than the original, because now all of the cracks shine. The cracks are shining with gold and with silver and with bronze, whatever they choose to use. And it's a really beautiful finished final product. And you find that actually the brokenness, the pieces the things that you thought were broken and unusable actually become a beautiful, beautiful work of art. And this is basically what God, infinitude, what this divine energy is sort of telling Moses. It's saying, hey, that place in you that you feel like you're the most weak is actually the place you're going to shine the most. Because when you're a full cup, when you think I'm great, I've got it all, I'm the best, then you're a cup that's full, and a cup that's full can't receive. A cup that's full has no room to take anymore, you know. And there's a famous saying that says, the more you know you don't know. So sometimes why Moses also, the energy of Netzach, this energy this week is also an energy of humility, of humbling oneself. Because when you overcome, when you overpower, you realize, wow, the more I can do, the more I realize that I can't do, or the more I realize the more I have to go. And it's not like I have so much more to go. It's like an empowering feeling of like, wow, look how far I did come, and look how much farther I get to go. You know, I'm not done yet. There's so much more to do. There's so many more things to experience. There's so much more that I can work on. And it's exciting in a way. So this is the energy of this week. And Moses was that sort of archetypal of like, of energy of, it's my weakness that I think is actually holding me back is actually what's going to propel me forward, because it's where my light shines through, of where infinitude, it's not Moses shining, it's infinitude shining through Moses. And you all have this spark inside of you that is utterly infinite. You cannot paint it black. You can't paint a ray of light black, right? Because it's light. You have this light within you. So how do you tap into it? And what can we do to actually use it? I'm going to give you a little exercise. I'm going to ask you to do it now. I don't know if you're going to do it on your phone or if you have a pen and paper next to you. So if you can find a little place to write this, a little notepad or something like this, we're going to do an exercise right here and right now. And I'm giving you homework. Yes, I'm giving you homework. You thought you were done with homework. I'm giving you homework for the week. You ready? It goes like this. I want you to write down 2 places, 2 things within your character traits, 2 character traits, or 2, maybe it's anger, maybe you're quick to anger, something like this, something that you feel is your greatest weakness. I'm quick to anger, or I'm not a good dancer, or it could be something simple, or it could be something really deep that you feel like you've been grappling with. Write down 2 things that are most present with you right now, that it's like, it would be nice if I could work on this. And I don't see it's possible. Or maybe you don't even know that you need to work on it, but you know there's something there that's sitting with you that's like a little bit of a lump in the chest or something like that. Like, this is something I always, they say that sometimes when you're constantly, I used to always have flaky people in my life, and I don't know why. And then I got to work on it at one point in my life, and now I'm not surrounded by flaky people. I don't know why. It was always coming into my life because there was something in me that had to like work with flaky people and had to learn how to like deal with that character trait. So write down that character trait. That's that one thing that you feel like is always popping up in your life. That's like a bit of a bump in the road for you. And if you feel like this is too quick for you, just write down what to do and you could do it later. Now I want you to circle one of them, and I want you to write down 2 ways that that's positive. Let's just take the example of anger. Anger can be very destructive, but it's also a sign of passion. It's a sign that you have something passionate about you. So that's one thing, is that anger is actually a sign of passion. So write 2 ways, whatever it is, this one thing you want to work on, 2 ways that it's actually positive. And now I want you to circle one of those, you guessed it, and I want you to write down 2 ways. It could be big dreams, 2 ways that you think that you could actually actualize that positivity, that positive spin. For example, I have a friend who, whenever she gets angry, it's like a lot of energy in her. And she used to like hit things or break things. She says now, whenever she gets angry, I wish that this were my like go-to thing. She cleans things. So like she told me one time about a big fight she had with her husband. And she was like, I was like, give me the scrub brush. I'm gonna clean the oven. I'm like, okay, that's great. Maybe it's an ideal that it'll take you a lot of work to get to. You know, that's not always people's first reaction. But what's something that you think you could do with it? What is something, it could be little, it could be big, however you're feeling about it. What's something you can do with that anger or with that character trait that you really would like to work through? And then the last thing, you got it. I want you to, beautiful. I can't read all of the things because I'm on a phone, but I see what you're doing, and I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. I see that you're typing. I'm happy to talk to you afterwards and work one-on-one, because it's not you know, we're here, we got 2 more minutes. But in these 2 minutes, we'll write it down and we'll leave it for later. I'm happy to, Rabbi Calland has my contact information. So the last thing you're gonna do is to, yes, circle one of those things that you can do with it. And this week, for the next few days, I want you to give yourself 3 minutes. That's it, just 3 minutes out of 24 hours, 3 minutes, where you can try to focus on and actualize what that is. And that could just be breathing it. It could just be thinking it. It could just be visualizing. Visualize your perfected self. Visualize what it looks like when you, instead of getting angry, you clean the oven. It doesn't mean you have to stop being angry. It doesn't mean that you get rid of the character trait. It means that you rechannel it to something positive, because everything has that positive and that negative side. The sages always say, like these big, I like to call them like Jedi masters of Judaism. The Jedi masters of Judaism say, who is strong? Who is strong? He who overcomes his own self. So this is the energy this week, is that you have the ability to tap into to really tap in to that inner light and overcome, turn your weakness into a strength, to turn your darkness, what you feel is darkness, into a light. And I want to give us all a blessing that this week and every week that we tap into the ability to turn our darkness into light.
Thanks, Rivka.
Yeah, amen.
Thanks. So beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful week.
Thank you so much. Okay, everyone. So we've had Dov Bear with some breathing, and Rivka Pesha just taking things forward in terms of just beginning to realize that there's a way out of the craziness, and that's what I want to spend time talking about today. Can anyone who's on video, can you hear me, guys? Can you guys hear me? Okay, give me a thumbs. Yeah. Okay, great. That's great. That's great. You know, one of the things that I've seen over the years, work with Justifi and just over all the years. Hey, Brian. So I'm not very formal. So when faces come up on the camera, I gotta say hi. I can't help myself. You know, one of the things that people live with all of the time is the idea that we're in this kind of fixed world. There are things in life that are fixed. Okay. There's the year that you were born, the parents you were born to, the country that you grew up in. Really anything that happened to you until you became conscious till this moment today. That's all stuff that we can't really change. But so much of life looks as if it's made of brick and can't move. But actually, it's entirely porous. It really can shift. It can move. It can be different. The world can be different. You know, we've all felt it during Corona to the point that it almost feels cliche. There may be, like in another couple of weeks, when humanity emerges from their homes or caves, yeah, whatever your home looks like right now. But when we kind of emerge from our caves, we're going to blink in the sunlight. And you know what? Corporations are going to be moral now, right? And the justice system's going to work now, right? Yeah? And government's going to be like run by people who should be in government, right? Right? And people are going to treat each other nicely, right? And I went for a drive the other day in Jerusalem, which is pretty much on shutdown, but you're allowed to go out for important things like wine for Shabbat. There was no way I was going through Shabbat without some wine, man. No way. I was like, that'll never take me alive. I'm driving out. Right? But no one was honking their horns. People weren't honking their horns. Now, if you know Israel, especially if you know Jerusalem, dude, it's intense here. And people were not honking their horns. And I thought to myself, my gosh, maybe when we emerge from our caves, the world's going to be different, right? And then someone honked their horn. Like literally at that moment, it's like, and I'm like, oh no, my dream, because my friends, isn't our dream always that everyone else will be different? Because then I won't have to be different. If everyone else is different, then I don't have to be different. And that's just not how it goes. You can't demand more of other people than you would demand of yourselves. And if it's hard for us to change, so it's hard for me to, I don't know, I just want the corporations to stop being, you know, corrupt or whatever the cliche thing is, yeah. But I'm not prepared to do the work it takes for me to be more patient, right? I just want that guy to do the work it takes to be less into money, and I want that guy to stop honking his horn, okay? But I don't want to have to not be annoyed at a guy who honks his horn. I'm not prepared to do that work. He just has to change. And we live in this crazy world where it's so enshrined in our consciousness. Have you ever heard this one from the West? Right? Listen, this is who I am. If you don't like it, then you're not my friend. You have to accept me exactly the way that I am. Right? But it's not true. I mean, it's nice if people accept us the way that we are, I guess, but it's not always so helpful. Sometimes it might be nice for someone to say, I love you and accept you for who you are, but dude, you're going to do so much better if you change. You do so much better if you change. So how do we approach that? Okay? How do we approach that? This is generic, okay? There's people who work on change management in corporations, okay? There's people that try to change dynamics in their homes. There's people who try to change dynamics in their countries. There's people who try to change dynamics in themselves. It's all the same thing on some level, okay? And that is, a person needs to realize that deep down inside, you've got a way of connecting to reality. You've got a way of connecting to your experience where you know how to treat people with love and kindness and respect. And even when you're facing ethically complicated situations, real pressures at work, real difficulties, there's a reality to the fact that we have a way of guiding ourselves that's ready for us. That means we won't honk the horn, and if someone honks the horn, we'll be able to smile, and we won't do anything corrupt, and we won't be in any way emotionally abusive, and we won't bully at work, and we won't, because there's a part of us that knows that a better business deal will be made, a better relationship will emerge, a better experience will emerge if we can insist on approaching our experience in a way that leaves us feeling connected and warm and loving. And it sounds crazy because it's a dog-eat-dog world, and you'll never make money doing that, and money never sleeps, and you've got to blah, 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 and then. But in the end, what the things that we all want, we already know how to feel them. We already know how to feel them now. So I want everyone just to try this for me. I hope this isn't too ethereal, but I want everyone to kind of try this with me. Okay? And that is, just take 30 seconds now and write down. You can write them in the chat, or you can write them for yourself. It's okay. I don't need to see them. I'd love to see them because it always makes me cry, but I don't mind if you don't write them. Yeah. And that is, what are your longings? Longing. Okay. Right now, not I long to be reunited with my grandma. I don't mean that. I don't mean aspirations. If you just ask your heart right now, what do you actually want to feel? What do you actually want to be surrounded by right now? Yeah? the feeling. What is the best and most connecting and most beautiful feeling that you have? What are you longing for? Okay? Let's take 30 seconds. Okay. Now take another 10 seconds, okay? And like imagine this is your phone and you're taking a picture, yeah? I want you to take a picture in your own memory of the feeling that you long for most profoundly. Right? Try and remember that. What is that feeling that drives you, that the deepest feeling that you have? For me, I'm telling you, it's a feeling of calm, a feeling of love, a feeling of giving, a feeling of connection, a feeling of comfort in a comfort in the way that I feel like I believe everything's going to work out. That's how it works for me. That's what I'm longing for all of the time, is to connect to the world and to feel that. And I want you to take a snapshot of your feeling, whatever it is. And then I want you to ask yourself as follows. If I had that feeling when I walked out of this house after Corona, okay? If I kept that feeling with me, and here's the important point, I allowed that feeling to guide my interactions. I will not interact with any circumstance in a way that makes me lose that feeling. I won't lose that feeling. I'm not going to lose that feeling. What's going to happen is you're going to walk into work for the first time and your boss is going to be like, I bet you enjoyed that break. No, we got to get back to it, yeah? You know, being miserable again, right? So you're going to interact with that from a place of calm and love and compassion. And you're going to say, I'm free from this if I choose to be free from this. I'm here because I want to. You understand? It guides your interaction. You don't let go of that. Don't take off those glasses. Don't take off those glasses. And then the part of you that says, but it's impossible, I could never function. You can. You can always function. Again, I'm speaking from my perspective, from a place of love and from a place of connection. Right? You always can. You always can. You know, I was running a trip to Thailand. So many times we've had really stressful situations. And I've just said to myself, I'm not reacting, man. I'm staying in this space. Because the way I have of, there's going to be a way of doing this that's just going to be love and calm and like solid. And it works so beautifully. And the worst trip I ever did to Thailand in my life was the worst trip I've ever done. There was a stressful situation and I lost that feeling and I started dealing with it and telling this one to go here and this one, and they all started to hate me and they couldn't handle me and they wouldn't work with me the rest of the trip. It was a horrible trip. You know, you blow it because you've got this GPS, which is really how your thinking works. You can choose the thought, the way that you shape the reality that you're experiencing. You can interact with a difficult person and feel compassion, or you can feel bullied. You can feel compassion for them, or you can feel bullied. Right? You can interact with everything that way. So when it comes to changing the world, to tikkun olam, yeah, we all want everybody else to change, and we specifically like to focus on really big issues, because if we focus on really big issues, then I can kind of indicate value over our petty issues. But really, it gives me a big excuse to not work on myself. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't work on big issues. Of course, we should work on big issues. Okay, but the truth is that the way that Tikkun Olam works is we're asking people to choose love over the area that they're being corrupt in. We're asking people to choose self-love or to love another human being rather than to exploit. We're asking people to trust God or trust the universe, whatever you want to call it, rather than invest in crushing people, situations, circumstances. Tikkun Olam is predicated on the idea that we love humanity, every human being, so much we want them to have every right. We want them to have everything. Right? It's not that we want them to change. It's we want them to have everything. We want them to have everything they need. That's real Tikkun Olam. That's real Tikkun Olam. Really fixing the world. So we got to learn to kind of look inside and not demand more of anybody else than we demand of ourselves. And we have to learn to interact with every difficult circumstance, every personal weakness that we have. We can point the finger at the human trafficking guy, and we can point the finger at the drug dealer, and we can point the finger at the corrupt politician, and we can point the finger at and we should, you understand? Of course we should. But in the end, they've got a weakness, they've made a mistake, and they're not interacting with their circumstances from a place of love and care, not listening to their GPS. We have to learn to listen to ours. And then we can teach others how to do it too. And that's how the Jewish people fix the world. That's what it means to be part of the chosen people. Is the way we live influences the rest of the world. That's why the whole world looks to Israel. That's why the whole world's always looking at us. It doesn't make any sense geographically, does it? Right? Doesn't make it, there's more people in New York than there are in all of Israel. It doesn't make any sense. Right? But they look to us because everyone knows this. Everybody knows this. So let's connect to our GPS, connect to that feeling of longing. And then when we walk out of Corona, we can be different. We can be different and we can fix the whole world. We really can, because we've come to an understanding that the way we change the world and the way we ask others to change the world is already within all of us. It doesn't take any change. The thought's there, the connection is there. Let's just try and keep it with us. So just the exercise for the week. I'm sorry I've gone so over. Ilana's being very sweet and let me have a couple of her minutes. So I want everyone this week, if you can, to just practice being in that place. Just be in that place of just love and kindness, or however you define your longing. And allow it to guide your behavior when you're moving into a difficult situation. Have the courage. Have the courage to just be compassionate and filled with love when you're dealing with something that would normally be difficult and challenging. Okay, here's Ilana.
How much do you want to win? Okay.
Sorry.
Sure. Oh, this is fun. I can see so many faces. Hi, everybody. Okay. All right. So the question today, by the way, the questions that I'm bringing up are questions that I'm bringing out from my Rolodex of previously asked questions over my years of teaching. If you have a specific question that you want to address to me, please do. Yeah, ilanacallan@gmail.com or on WhatsApp or on Instagram recently. So funny. Anyway, okay, so the question today is the question of, do opposites attract? Okay. This question I get asked very often, and I find it irritating. Let me show you why I find it irritating, okay? So let's assume that the answer is yes, opposites attract. So there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is if you happen to be kind, intelligent, and beautiful. And the great news is if you're thick, horrible, and ugly. You understand how that works? Yeah, okay, everyone's following my British sense of humor over here? Okay, good. Okay, so, and what we need to do is we need to really destroy the question, because the question itself is so horribly unhelpful. So we're going to unpack the question, and we will also try and take out some principles to help us on our way. So why are people attracted to the stupid question? They're attracted to the stupid question for the same reason that anybody's attracted to a simple, formula, okay? Because something which is complicated, if you can put a simple formula on it, you don't have to deal with the complexities of it, okay? So great, opposites attract. That's it. I just have to find my opposite now. Like, all the work has gone. So of course we're attracted to simple formula, but the reality is that we're not that simple. So this formula doesn't work for a bunch of reasons. Okay, first of all, so, like I said, the answer is yes, opposites attract. So what does that mean? how many parts are there to you? You know, like, you know, you could easily divide yourself into 50 parts. What does opposite even look like? You're going to find someone who's exactly the opposite in all 50 parts. No, no, no. In 25 parts, you'll be opposite, and in 25 parts, you'll be the same. How do you divide your 50 into 25 and 25? Like we are too complex as people to be able to take a formula that is so overriding of our subtleties and nuances. So why has this become such a popular concept? A, because it's simple. Okay. B, because like we've said many times, it makes a fantastic story. Okay. It has been very romanticized. You know, this idea of the unlikely couple, the couple that whose romance should never have happened because it comes out of nowhere, the prince and the pauper, all that kind of stuff. That's been thoroughly romanticized, and therefore we have this sort of sense, which runs a little bit counterintuitive to our sense of similarities is what builds relationship, but at the same time, similarity sounds very boring because the boy next door is just the boy next door. Okay, so number one, again, we like simple, but simple is not always appropriate. Number two, it's become very romanticized. So what we need to do is we need to sort of start to break this concept down in a way that's a little bit more helpful to us. So where do the concept of opposites come from? So I'll tell you for sure that there are certain things, and this is where it can be useful, that we have missed out in our childhood and upbringing. And because we've missed out on it on our childhood and upbringing, we very much crave it. Okay, so you'll find people who come from instability who crave like tremendous amounts of stability, routine, you know, boring. You'll find people who come from, who've traveled, like, similar example, who've traveled around, who want people who've never ever moved. You'll find people who've been sheltered, who want people who've been on adventure. There is a reality to the fact that sometimes we crave the things that we've missed, but it's just as true as the other reality, which is some of the things that we've been brought up with or on are the things that we have to have in our relationships as well. You know, like I said, if you're, you know, kind and beautiful, you're not looking for mean and ugly. Like that doesn't work. If you were used to intelligent conversation, then you're going to want intelligent conversation. If you're used to meaning and fulfillment, then someone who's not driven and offers you no meaning is not going to do anything for you either. So what I really want to do is I want to throw this stupid question of opposites a little bit out of the window, recognize where it comes from, and then go to a much better formula that is not quite as simple, but will inform you and guide you for your decision making when it comes to relationships. And it really goes back to this concept of compatibility. But the reason behind compatibility is that we have to recognize that the relationships, let's call them marriage. You don't have to be married, you do what you want, but like, you know, this long-term relationship is something that is there for a reason and a purpose. The goal of marriage is not to disperse loneliness. That's not the goal of marriage. The goal of marriage is really the same goal as single life, which is it's the form in which I find myself for my continued growth in life. Growing, certainly Jewish people and most thinking people, right? The goal of life, you know, it is there. Like I remember Jamie and I giving a class on a birthright trip many years ago, and it was when you were not allowed to say anything very Jewish on birthright, otherwise you got thrown off, right? So we were giving, it was so funny, we gave a relationship class, but we had to be very careful not to be too Jewish about it. I hope I'm not offending anybody, whatever, fire me, you know. So we were in the middle of the class, and at one point, I don't know how it came up, but like I said, you know, one of the interesting things about Judaism is that, like, you know, I grew up that the question, like, what is the meaning of life, ends up with a exclamation point, right? And in Judaism, that is not an exclamation mark question. That is a question mark question. What is the meaning of life? And not only that, but it has an answer. And not only that, but if you really follow Jewish philosophy, you are obliged to answer that question every single day of your life, right? The path of the just. What am I living for? Like, that's how you start your day. Like, you know. And anyway, so we gave this class, and at the end, like, all the students, like, were finished. They were like, did you say, like, you could answer the question, what is the meaning of life? And we were like, yeah. They said, can we talk about that? We said, yeah, no, we're not allowed to, sorry. birthright weekend. I'm afraid we won't be able to talk about that right now. But like the whole class was like, still, no one wanted to leave. Like, it's, what do you mean? Like, we can talk about meaning? Like, really? That there's a reality to that, there's an answer to that? Yeah, of course. I was created for a purpose, body and soul, that there's a meaning to that. And when you have a point to life, it's not that marriage becomes the point to your life. It's that marriage becomes a new platform in which to express what the goal is all along, which is important because not everyone's going to get married so soon, and life does not begin when you get married. It's just a new platform. Every day of your life is part of this search for meaning and the search for the goal, and there's a new platform over here. So when I understand that, what I have to do is I have to get rid of this desire for a simple formula of opposites attract, and I have to say, no, hold on. My life is about meaning, and there are lots of different parts of my psyche. There's lots of stories of my upbringing. There's parts of my values. And in each area, I need to seek compatibility. And again, compatibility means this formula is going to allow me to get towards healthy growth. So if I'm a kind person, yeah, I need similarity. I'm not going to be able to grow, be married to someone who's horrible, that I have to spend my whole life, defending myself from threat. There's no growth in that, but at the same time, there's a part of me that's shy. And maybe if I marry someone who can help me draw myself out of myself, that will be useful, because then I can accomplish more meaning. But yeah, these values that I live with are really important. And if I marry someone who's an opposite, we're going to spend our whole life battling over compromise rather than be able to grow together. But on the other hand, I don't have confidence, and it might be really nice to be married to someone who can imbue me with confidence. So it's not like there is a rule about opposites attract. Can we be attracted to opposites? Yes, but the reality is that relationships generally thrive, especially in the values area, where it comes to similarity. People find people who look like them attractive. People enjoy shared interests. People enjoy shared values. And it's not about boring. It's about meaning. It's about saying, my marriage is not just this crazy romance that once you put it into real life and you take it off, the Hollywood script, is going to, fall apart because there's nothing holding us together. I'm trying to have a life purpose, and marriage is just really like, it's not such a big deal. It's the next stage in that life's purpose. But when I'm single, I'm also trying to achieve that life purpose. So I'm going to ask the question, in each of the areas of, again, my values, my emotional reality, my makeup, my personality, my dreams, my goals, am I looking for someone in each given area? Like, again, I have to do this bit by bit. I can't have this like one stupid oversimplified rule that just like makes me not have to do the work, of assessing this relationship. Is this going to be either the complement or the offshoot, right? The complement by similarity or complement by difference that is going to allow me to achieve my purpose? If the answer is yes, then this works for me. And by the way, can I have a bunch of them going? Yeah, I can. Sometimes I find I'm have the best conversation with someone because we have exactly the same values. And then there's another guy I went out with, another girl that I went out with, and there was enough difference in values to create enough tension for me to be able to, reassess, so good. So they both worked. The desire that we have to simplify is the desire that we have when we're not really sure what the goal is. Once the goal is clear, the algorithm becomes simple, not by avoiding the work, but by recognizing what I'm trying to accomplish over here. So again, if my differences are going to help me accomplish meaning in my life, then that's going to be wonderful. There's a balance over here that we're going to be able to seesaw off this balance, and that's going to bring us forward in our shared desires for what this life and marriage is about. If we're so different that we're never going to find a middle ground, so we won't be able to move forward, then that's going to get in the way. And for me to say, well, I guess I'm just deep and he's just like, or she's just like sporty, and opposites attract, and that's great. If that's not going to help you both accomplish what you want from life, that's a bad opposite, and again, if it works towards your goal, then it's a good opposite. So I'm afraid there's no simple answer over here. But the question does become simpler once you are really connected to what meaning is about for you in your life. Once you become committed to allowing marriage to be an avenue in which you're going to really find that meaning, rather than a total distraction from that meaning in the name of romance. Don't do that to yourselves. Like marriage shouldn't be a battleground. Marriage should be, a fantastic, laboratory for for breeding your fabulous life and meaning. It shouldn't be a battleground. And then at that point you can break the relationships down and say, do I have enough balance and complement, and do I have sameness and overlap that we can make sure that that our marriage supports our life. Okay, handing over to Avadia.
Okay, thanks so much, Ilana. Hi, everyone. Nice to see all of you who I can see. So what I want to chat about a little bit is something that's the big thing with Corona now. And I know we're all over the world and we're all in different phases of this. But here in Israel, they're talking a lot about exit strategy. And 2 of my 5 kids went back to school today for part of the day, which was very exciting. And they had to do everything differently, and we had to like sign a form and send it with them that we'd taken their temperature, and you know, it was very exciting. So we're looking at getting back to normal, and that got me thinking about what the best way is to get back to normal, and the more important question, do we want to go back to normal? Meaning we want this terrible thing to be over. We want people to be healthy. We want the economy, both wherever we are and globally, to recover. But do we want it to go back to normal how it was? Or do we want it to, do we want to come back from this better? Do we want to come back from it better equipped? It would be a real tragedy to waste the tragedy that we've had. So a lot has changed, and these last 7, 8, 9 weeks have been a great experiment. And for those of us who were, thank God, healthy and not personally affected by it, a change of routine and a great chance to relook at things differently. So what is the best way to come out of it? So I want to share something interesting. I know Rivka Pesha earlier on spoke about Moses and stories of Moses. So that gave me the idea to share one interesting observation I had about the life of Moses. What was the first thing he ever did? Meaning, if we read the Bible and we listen to the stories, there's a lot of things that happen to him. He's born, they put him in a basket, Pharaoh's daughter catches him, raises him in the palace. What is the first thing that he ever actually does? Not the first thing that happens to him. So it's very interesting. Unless I'm very much mistaken, the first thing it ever mentions him doing is leaving the house and going out to meet other people. That is the first active action that Moses ever does, and that action is the catalyst that leads to him becoming the Moses we know. It's the action that leads to everything else. He goes out of his realm, he goes out of his very safe comfort zone, and the express purpose of doing so is to see other people and try to understand what they're going through. That is exactly what it says. Moses grew up and he went out to see the suffering of others. So this is going to be a key thing. We should, when this is all over and we go back to normal, see people differently. So here's a really important question to ponder. We've done so much through technology instead of in person recently, for very good reasons. And we've had a chance, most of us have probably used Zoom and other apps and web services like it more in the last few weeks than we have in the last 5, 10 years put together. And a lot of us have experimented with different means of technology, and we've acknowledged that a lot of the meetings we used to get dragged to before could have been emails. And we've, done everything differently. We've figured out which is the best app to use and which is the best way to do it and what are the best ways to communicate. And that's all very well. But now what we need to look at is how to take the best of what we learned, and still be efficient and still be hygienic and still be, on point and on task and not waste time traveling to meetings and make everything more efficient. But at the same time, how to maximize real human communication. Because coming out of our comfort zone and really interacting with other people and seeing what's really going on with them is, I believe, going to be the key to everything. And this is an opportunity to do that better than we ever have before. but it's not going to happen by accident. It can only happen if we're consciously trying to make it happen. So how do we come out of this with stronger empathy? And I want to stress that empathy is something that no matter how much of it you have, you always need to work on it and always need more. It always helps. We can all improve, and every improvement makes a positive difference. Empathy really makes everything so much better, so much smoother. That ability to feel what other people are feeling, to understand what they're really saying, not just their words, to really be in tune with where they're going is going to be a real superpower. And most people will acknowledge that we're not getting it through technology. We can do our best, but there's definitely something missing. There's a very big difference between sharing information, between a group of people technically sharing information, and a group of people really meshing and putting their minds together and achieving something together they couldn't before. So it's going to be really, I believe, the key to making all of this into a positive thing is going to be empathy. It's going to be strengthening our ability to build connections and to quickly and efficiently understand other people. And the more we understand other people, the more other people will understand us as well. So we don't really need to work, I believe, we don't need to work so much on making ourselves understood and getting our point across. I really think that if we make an effort to understand other people, our minds just get in tune with them, and we sort of form a circuit, and there's a lot of scientific writing on this, and they will automatically understand us. So how do we do that? So I would say, one bit of homework, one thing to experiment is when we start, having more human, real, face-to-face, technology-free interactions, to try to make a conscious effort to see every detail of a person's facial expression and hear every tone in their voice, which is going to be tricky when we're walking around with these masks on. I recently found out that I was wearing my mask wrong, actually, because I went to the supermarket yesterday and I was very careful to have my mask covering my nose and mouth. But when I got there, I learned that it only needs to be hanging around your chin, apparently. So I was very surprised to see that I was wearing it wrong. But let's say it's a joke. I know, right? But I'm being ironic. So many people just walking around with the masks over here, and I didn't understand why. So it's going to be really hard. But the truth is, when it's hard, it's a great opportunity. I played a game with my kids yesterday. We went for a walk, and we all had our masks on, and we played a game where you had to guess the smile. Meaning we had to be looking at each other and trying to figure out when the other person was smiling, and doing so like that. So having to look really carefully at the body language, because we stand up a little bit straighter when we smile, and having to look very carefully at each other's eyes and other key giveaways like that to find out when the other person's smiling. And we were playing a game where we tried to catch each other out by smiling and making them not, without them noticing, or making them think we were smiling when we couldn't. So I thought it was a great game to play. I thought it had educational value. But that's going to be the key now, to maximize that. So I would say to take 5 minutes every day going forward, have 5 minutes, because we can't do it all the time. But when we interact with other people in real life, whether it's close up or from far away, 2 meters, it's, really important. Whether, that for the non-metrics among us, 6 feet or however far it is, right? Whether our faces are partially concealed or completely revealed, to really just pick one interaction a day, and just for a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, try to intently focus, without being weird or creepy about it, on the other person's facial expressions and on the other person's tone of voice, and to really hardwire our brains into theirs and really, really, really deeply understand not just the words they're saying, but what they're thinking and what they're feeling. And I believe that if we do that, we'll all come out of this with more skills and more ability to do better at the things that are important to us. So that's just an idea. Please feel free to get in touch with me if you'd like more information, or you'd like to disagree or agree with me about any of this. And thank you all so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next week.